So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our session. Um, we would love to have more participants, but we'll get started. We don't want to waste your time. So in this session for next 60, 75 minutes, we want to focus on two hot topics and two main issues, cybersecurity issues, which large enterprises are facing today, right? If I look at the recent cybersecurity threats or recent threats which are going on in enterprise environment, there are two things comes out on top. Okay, so the two hot issues comes on top. Now, if you analyze deeply, what we see is most of the attacks are focusing on the employee, the end user of the organizations, right? And then there is a lot of dependency on that end user to make sure that he does not fall into any phishing link trap, any spam trap, stuff like that and all those things, right? And there are a lot of chances that that end user is not skilled enough, experienced enough, and does not know what to do at right point in time, leading to breaches, right? And although there are a lot of endpoint security solutions are available, I'm sure if you look at your enterprise organization, most of the endpoint would have easily about 6 to 8 agents, doing their job. But still, we are facing those issues. Still, we are seeing that, when we look at any incident and when you do the analysis, we find that the weakest link is the employee. Correct? So in this topic, what we are going to do is we will touch upon that employee piece, the endpoint piece, and we will see how we can make sure that we cover that threat vector in a much better way, in a much efficient way, right? And my team will talk about that. So that's one. The second aspect, what we hear from our customer when we engage with large organizations, we see that they continue to struggle to detect any threat in their organization in a timely manner. The reason is cybersecurity industry, as we all are aware, is highly fragmented, right? Large organization could have easily deployed 40 to 50 tools, and all that logs comes back to SIM. And then it's a responsibility of the threat analyst, SecOps team and SOC team to look at for the right log at the right point in time to identify the right threat which is active in the environment and then take remediation steps and so on and so forth and all those things. What we hear from our customer is that because of the dynamic nature of the IT environment, right? People, the employee are moving out of the office. They are working from home. They are working from coffee houses and so on and so forth, and they are accessing all the applications. The applications which used to be on-prem now all across. Now we have SaaS applications, now we have cloud and public cloud and so on and so forth and all those things, right? All that environment making it really, really complex to identify a threat actor which is active in your environment. And what is happening is we are seeing a decline, the continuous decline of MTTD, mean time to detect and mean time to respond, right? My team will touch upon on that topic as well. And we will see how at Palo Alto Networks, we have innovated product solutions, technologies to improvise on all these two aspects. So with that, let me invite the next speaker, Ashish Chalke. Ashish, all yours.
Again, a very good afternoon to everyone. Again, I know it's a post-lunch session and we always have the post-lunch jitters. So my name is Ashish Chalke. I'm part of Palo Alto Networks, and in a very exciting area, I'm going to talk about primarily. So let me start off with a question, right? Since we are in a post-lunch session, what is the most used application on your system today? Browser, okay. What about others? Which application do you spend the most time in during the day on your systems? Social media, okay. But what do you use to Outlook? Okay, nice one. Anybody else? I'm not moving beyond this until I get more responses. So I'm just going to stand here like this. Office tools, okay. Anybody else? Okay. So, a lot of good responses. Usually when I ask this question in forums, I typically get one of the most common responses, it's the browser. Somebody mentioned social media, somebody mentioned Outlook, etc. But we're seeing a lot of these access ultimately happening through the browser, right? The browser is becoming the ubiquitous way that we access applications, that we interact with applications, and we perform our work in. The browser is becoming our modern workspace, right? Now, a lot of you are from financial services organizations, and financial services organizations are primarily in the forefront of cybersecurity. You have managed endpoints, you have the best-in-class network protection, you manage your cloud environments, etc. Now, let me ask you, how many of you have deployed managed browsers? Anybody? We typically don't think about it, right? A browser is Google Chrome, browser is Edge that comes in as part of the default device. We've never really thought about the browser. Now, as the applications are moving into the browser, the cyber attackers have realized that this is a very, I would say, a pertinent attack space. And this is exactly why we launched our own solution, and we started off with a campaign called Browse Bravely. So, Browse Bravely, a new way of browsing the internet. It's not just about the internet, but rather a new way of working, a new workspace, a secure managed workspace for every organization. But before I get into the browser, I would kind of want to talk about what led to this, right? So if you see the FSI landscape today, and I think a lot of you will agree with me, most of the FSI products globally are built in India. A lot of global banks have their back offices in India, development of sorts in India. You have back office support, not just from development, but you would have sales, customer services, right? Expand business, all of that in India. Now, while that is great, rolling out a new service typically takes weeks to months as it goes through the entire deployment lifecycle, right? There's no agility. The second is we are rather on the cusp of a large transformation, right? Leveraging generative AI in business. We're speaking to a lot of financial services organizations that are saying, Gen AI allows me to analyze my customer requirements much better. It allows me to pull insights much better from financial services reports, right? But then what about the data risk? How do we safely adopt Gen AI? That's the common question that we get. Third is it's a competitive market, right? An employee or a contractor working for you today might jump ship to work on another contractor or to another bank, right? Or another financial services organization. How do you protect data in that case? How do you ensure that your data is protected, that is not leaked to the competition when that employee or the contractor jumps ship? And the last is, I don't need to say everything, the elephant in the room is DPDP. We're seeing a lot more focus on data security, personal data protection, and compliance. How do we ensure that data is protected? Whether it could be an employee, it could be a third-party partner, a contractor, a call center user, anybody that works for us, works on customer data for us, right? So that's what we're hearing from a lot of our customers today. Now, traditionally, when you think about it, right, one of the key aspects of DPDP is it asks you to mask sensitive customer information or sensitive information data, right? For example, it could be a customer ID, customer information number. How do you do that in the traditional sense? Now, let's say that you have multiple applications that have the same data that's being displayed as a report to the user. You'd probably think, okay, let me go ahead and modify the application itself. Now, usually what that results in months-long projects where you're looking at working with different software developers for that particular application, looking at how do I deploy that particular control of masking and ensure that it is, I would say, uniform across all the pages that is masking all the data. Okay? If it's on-prem, what if the application is no longer yours? SaaS application, a lot of organizations that I'm speaking to use CRM on the cloud. How do you protect data when you do not control the interface? It's a shared application, and it's not the SaaS vendor's prerogative. So that's another concern. And especially with Gen AI, they're not designed for data protection. They are designed for productivity, right? They prioritize enterprise features the least. The next could be you deploy a middleman layer, right? So if you cannot control it at the application, you deploy a middle layer that controls how the user accesses these applications, accesses that secure data. Now the problem is, oftentimes it leads to poor user experience. Your apps are modernized. Your apps work in the web browser today. Any new application that you deploy, you're not deploying a client-server-based app. You're deploying a web-based app, right? That is designed for agility. But the access mechanism is still old school. If you're providing them VDI access or some form of reverse proxy, it often breaks the application. It leads to poor user experience. And you're not even able to achieve a lot of the objectives on data protection. So what is the final resort? Shipping a laptop, shipping a managed device to the end user, and you control the entire operations, you control the entire data flow for it. And that's how we have been doing security in FSI. Whether it be a contractor user, whether it be an employee, it's a managed device that they work from. The problem with that is the entire managed device lifecycle falls on you. You're responsible for shipping updates, you're responsible for the entire audit, you're responsible for ensuring that it is covered from the latest cyber attacks, when essentially all they need is controlled access to specific information, right? And there are still modern avenues that you can't even protect with a managed device. What happens if I try to take a screenshot or share it on Zoom? You can't protect that. So this is where we decided that we needed to take a fresh look at data protection, a fresh look at how do we secure both managed and unmanaged devices. And that's where Prisma Access Browser enters. So Prisma Access Browser is a managed browser from Palo Alto Networks. This is an enterprise browser that is based on the same Chromium platform that is built into Edge and Google Chrome. It ensures that you have the same existing application compatibility that is available with your apps on the existing browsers. But that's where the differences stop. The enterprise browser has been designed from grounds up for security. It builds a secure environment on any device. Imagine it could be a personal device of an employee. It could be a third-party contractor-managed laptop. We do not care. We build a secure bubble. You could call it a bubble on that particular device. And you as the organization maintain access to that bubble. You will control via policy what goes into the bubble, what goes out of the bubble. You will control how the user views data within that particular bubble, right? This provides unprecedented last mile data and identity controls based on zero trust principle. Who's the user? What is the device? Where are they coming from? And what application they're trying to access? Plus the ability to do activity-based controls. But we also make it very easy for your IT. We don't want your IT spending a lot of cycles trying to deploy and manage the solution. We made it very easy for the user to deploy. No admin rights to install. They can just go ahead and download the browser and get started, right? So they can work on a corporate device, no problem. We do end user coaching within that particular solution so that users know exactly what is happening. You can coach users to good behavior. And finally, with the browser, while you are able to access SaaS and cloud-based apps, you can also access private applications without a VPN, right within the browser itself. So with the Prisma Access Browser, we are revolutionizing this aspect where you don't need all this complexity. All you need to do is deploy the Prisma Access Browser, define last mile identity controls, and enable access to the applications. How does this all work? You're probably thinking, right? So I thought instead of talking you through multiple slides, I'll actually walk you through the solution itself. And which is why we are going to do a live demo of the solution now. So this is my device. I'm going to simulate an unmanaged device. The way that I'm going to do it is I'm outside the office. I have not connected my SSE solution, so there is no security policy right now running on my device. Everything that's going to run is from the Prisma Access Browser. Okay? So this is the Prisma Access Browser, a managed device, or rather a managed browser from Palo Alto Networks. Let me launch it. It's multi-profile. You authenticate the user before they access browser and resources. This is again authenticated based on your IDP. It could be Entra ID, Okta, or any other SAML 2.0 IDP. So let me log in. So like I said, zero trust based principles. It recognizes who the user is. It says, hey, Ashish Tarke, welcome. It is also doing posture. Now imagine this powerful capability of doing posture just on a browser that does not even require admin rights on a contractor device. So we're able to validate whether that device meets minimum security criteria before you permit access to it. You also perform, posture-based checks to gain access to applications within that. So in this case, I'm purposely failing a check to show you this. So you can see that there's one check that's failed. I could stop access right here, or I could allow the user to continue with differential access. And by this time, you have also noticed the customization. I'm not working on a Palo Alto Networks browser. I'm working on the organization's browser. In this case, This is a DSCi browser, right? It's not a random browser or a Palo Alto. It's the organization's own browser. So the user knows that this is a trusted application that they're working from. Let me proceed anyway. This is called step-up MFA, right? We struggle a lot with legacy applications that we cannot integrate with our MFA and IDP solutions. With the Prisma Access browser, we can integrate with step-up MFA through the browser itself. In this case, I'm doing step-up MFA while logging into the browser, but I can also provide step-up MFA while accessing an application. It could be a PIN, it could be a passkey, it could be Touch ID, Windows Hello, or even a YubiKey for larger security reasons. Let me go ahead and type in my key, and this is my home page. As you can see, this is a very customized home page, very specific to the organization and the user. I can customize the look and feel of the browser so that the user feels right at home. All the applications that I see here are applications that are assigned to me based on my role, on my need to know. Okay? So if I was a sales user, I will see sales applications. All of this is controlled centrally. We'll see the console in a short while. Now, let's look at what's so enterprise and what are the security capabilities of this browser. I said browse bravely, right? So I'm going to use a well-known internet website to demonstrate the controls of the browser. And the reason for this is for you to know that there are no modifications on the application side. Everything is being done in the browser itself. So I'm going to use DLP test. As you see, when I click on the application, it collects and tells me that, hey, this is a business application. So you can tag different applications, say that, hey, this is a business app, this is a risky or sensitive application. For the user, that's end user coaching. He knows that, okay, this is a business application, I have to be very careful because it could be monitored. In this particular application, sample data is the page where sensitive data is there for my organization. I'm very concerned about it. So when I go there, these are the controls that have been implemented by my organization. First is, you see the watermark, right? Protecting people from, or rather, adding a deterrent where somebody is trying to take a photo, deterrent that the watermark is displayed with my username, with the timestamp of that, right? So if they have to leak for espionage reasons, you'll see the watermark who leaked that particular data. The second is, you can't really stop somebody from taking a photograph, but you can prevent them from seeing the information that they're not supposed to see. In this case, I'm a call center user. I have to authenticate my credit card customer, so I need credit card access. But I don't need the entire number. All I need to authenticate the customer is the last 4 digits. As you see here, the credit card number is masked using data masking capability built into the browser. I'm only showing him the need to know, that's the last 4 digits. The entire number is masked. All of this can be deployed with a single rule. You can just select, hey, I want to mask credit card numbers, I can do that. It can be, we support with 1,000+ out-of-box patterns, and you can build your own patterns as needed for your business. Now you might be thinking, okay, you're doing it on the application side, what if I go ahead and try to access developer tools? So for smarter users that try to evade protection, we have built in browser security controls that protect the data from being exfiltrated. You are saying, nice, Ashish, this is really good, but I'm seeing the SSN. So there might be cases where you need to show the user some numbers or some data. In this case, the social security number, while it is confidential, I have to show it for a business reason. But I want to ensure that the user does not misuse that data, does not take it outside this browser. So let me go ahead and copy this and try to paste it outside. This is outside the browser, outside that bubble. If I try to paste it, you can see that the pasting is blocked. This is the identity-based policies at play, where you're saying that whatever goes out of the bubble or whatever goes into the bubble, you control via policy centrally. So I've blocked access outside. What if I'm trying to do within the browser as well? So let's say it's an unauthorized application, and let me open another application as well. So if it's an unauthorized application like ChatGPT, it's still within the browser, right, in that bubble. No problem. If I try to paste within that bubble into an unauthorized application, I can still do directional-based policy. I can say that GenAI is not an authorized application. Pasting confidential or sensitive data is not allowed. Now, there might be a case where a business process requires the user to take data from one application to the other. Let's say I call up this customer, he's agreed to buy the policy from me. Now I have to enter his details into another business application, maybe a CRM application for them to follow up. If I block copy-paste, the actual user is going to complain back to the business saying that what I used to do in 2 seconds takes me 10 minutes because IT has blocked access to clipboard. I have to type everything manually. And what's going to happen is the business is going to come back to you and say, stop that control. We need the productivity back. We're losing minutes. So with the Prisma Access browser, we ensure that we are able to support the business So in this case, if I take the social security number again, and let's say Salesforce is my business application. So I can control, you can see that this is tagged as business. I can control the data flow and say that between two business applications, I allow clipboard access. Between an unauthorized application, I will say that clipboard access is denied. Sorry, I just printed, instead I will just paste. Okay. Lastly, and there are a lot more capabilities, but I want to specifically focus on considering the time, is what if the user tries to share it or take a screenshot of it, right? We know people who are working from remote branches, they could just join any desk, a Teams, a Zoom, anything. So let me go ahead to an application. Let's say Wikipedia, in my case, is a confidential application. Right now, you're able to see the screen very nicely. If I try to take a screenshot, and I'm going to be a smart user, I'll take a snippet. I take a partial snippet, not the entire screen. See what happens. I don't see that specific page or that specific application. This is the screenshot and screen sharing protection in action. It protects data sensitive applications based on your policy. You will say that, hey, this is a sensitive application, do not allow screenshot and screen sharing. If I use something like Zoom, and let me start a new meeting. Yes. Share my screen. See the preview here. Even in the preview, the app is blocked because it has been said that it is not allowed to screen share. The moment I share my entire screen, in this case, I did not choose a specific browser, a specific app. It's my desktop application. The moment I shared my screen, it blocked access to that specific application because it is confidential to me. If I go to other applications like DLP test, they're working fine. Because there, I do not want to set that level of sensitivity. It's only in that specific application, which is very confidential to me, that I wanted to prevent users from taking screenshots or sharing the screen. And you might now be thinking, hey, this is all nice, this looks really good, but how much time does it actually take to deploy policy? How much time does it actually take to work on this, apply all these controls? It might be months or weeks for me to deploy. So let's see that in action. Okay? I will now run you through a sample policy live. Let's see how Prism Access browser actually enforces policies, how it makes your life easy in deploying security controls. Let me just quickly log in. So what we are going to do is, we are going to go to the DSCi website, and we are going to apply some of these controls. So if I go to DSCi now, so you see that this website has no controls applied. Normal website, even if you go on your phone, it's this way, right? What we are going to do is, we are going to apply a watermark. So there's going to be a watermark available on the screen. Secondly, what you're going to do is, you see the numbers here on the screen. We're going to mask the numbers. We're going to do very simple masking. Of course, we can do much more granular if there was sensitive data, but we're going to do masking of these specific numbers on the DSCi website. Finally, what we're going to also do is, we're going to put a EULA message, kind of a warning for the user before they access that particular application. So let's do that on the management console. And like I said, this is a centrally managed browser. You do not perform any kind of configuration on the endpoint itself. Everything is done centrally on the Strata Cloud Manager, which is the unified management console for the enterprise browser and all of our network security platform. So what we are going to do, again, just to recap, apply to Ashish Charke as a user coming from this device that, hey, when you access the DSCi website, these are the set of security controls that are going to apply to you. So let me go into simple rules and add a rule here. So as you see the rule build up, let me just say, hey, this is the DSCi rule. I apply the scope. Again, based on zero trust principles, who's the user, what is the device, where are they coming from? In my case, I'm just going to say, this is Ashish Charke, who's the user. Okay? I could also apply device posture-based policies. Am I coming from a managed or unmanaged device? Second is, where am I going to? Is it an internet-based app? It's a private app, a remote connection. In this case, it's an internet-based website. Now remember, we talked about GenAI earlier. So you can apply policies based on layer 7 SaaS applications, which include generative AI applications as well. We could apply policies based on website classification, which also include generative AI categories. For example, we could apply policies on meeting assistants or conversational assistants. We could ban things like platform services on AI. I'm sure a lot of you are, especially if the folks in cybersecurity and IT, you're pestered with the meeting AI and read AI, those kind of requests, right? They have become a virus. They're the new form of the virus, right? So you can actually control meeting assistants here with this policy. But coming back to our original use case, DSCi website. So I just type DSCi.in, and I want to apply it for the entire domain. So I'll just say, hey, apply to DSCi.in. Just say add, and let's move on. Now I have options to apply access. Do I want to allow or deny? In this case, I want to provide them a small EULA. So I'll say warn and allow to proceed anyway. And say that every 10 minutes, this warning comes. I can control the warning, show it in once during an hour, showing it once during the day, kind of a EULA. So let's do that. I'll tag this application that this is a sensitive application for me. So you will see a sensitive label for DSCi. I could also set optional login controls as well, if needed. But in this case, we don't need that. Let's talk about data controls. So a whole host of data controls, file upload protection and download protection. Due to the brevity of the session, we will not be able to cover all of them today. But in case you are interested to go deep, we are available right outside this room in the booth. But for now, let's configure the watermarking. And you can see here, I just have to click on enable. I choose how the watermark color and everything comes in. So I could say that, hey, give me it in color, don't give it in white, standard. I could say rotate it 45 degrees, make it look nice, and set. The second thing I wanted to do is enable data masking. So I said, enable data masking, click on this, mask all characters, mask specific characters. Let's mask everything and set it on. Finally, I select what do I want to mask. So in the content, I have data profiles I can choose, PII, financial information, etc. I could choose my own custom patterns or the built-in patterns as well. In this case, since you're masking all numbers, I created a pattern here which just says, hey, look at any number and select that. So I'm going to use numbers here. So let me search for numbers. That's it. And the logging level as well. How do I want the log? Because ultimately, we are all in security. We need to understand what is the exact user, what is the forensics for this. So let me go ahead and turn it on and save this. So this is the first rule. Now, every 90 seconds, the browser makes a check whether there is a policy update. The user does not have to refresh anything. What will happen is, in 90 seconds, this particular page will get refreshed because I applied new controls. It will fetch the new policy. The new policy says that to access this application, you need to first accept a EULA. You need to accept the warning from IT before you proceed to the application. Okay? Now, anytime you apply a control, the browser will always maintain a check. And you see in the background, while I'm away from the system, it applied the policy. It said the generic message restricted website, but you could write a very nice EULA message. It shows me the logo as well that this is sent by the organization. I click on proceed anyway. And you can see it's sensitive. See the watermark? We are able to apply watermarking in a single policy in a few seconds. Let's look at the masking. Are you able to see the numbers? With a very simple policy, we are able to apply data masking on a website very effectively. And this could be not just an internet-based website. It could be your own application. It could be an application that you host internally or on the cloud, anywhere. We don't care. And we have mechanisms to ensure that users only use this specific browser and no other browser. So that if they try to access the application from Chrome or Edge, they will not be able to access it. They have to use this specific browser to access the application, your enterprise applications. The Prism Access browser also integrates with Palo Alto Networks, network security, cloud-delivered security services. It includes advanced URL filtering capabilities. It includes our advanced malware analysis capabilities as well. So when you say browse bravely, we actually deliver protection right at the edge. You're able to see activity right at the edge. What kind of activity? Remember, this could be deployed on an unmanaged machine, an unmanaged system as well. Now, when I'm deploying this on an unmanaged system, you don't have your DLP, you don't have your endpoint protection, you don't have your URL filtering agent or SSE agent. This browser can provide all the telemetry that you need from an unmanaged device, a call center device, a BPO device, right? It could also, from your endpoint, you have all of the visibility that you want. As you see all of my activity that has happened here, what I will do now is I could filter on DLP activity, and you see all of the activity here based on my data events. For example, I try to copy, paste, data masking was activated, it sees all of that. I could click on an event and it gives me details around who the user is, what device they are coming in from, what are the compliance and MITRE TIDs that this event is applicable to. I also see the rules that it hit and what kind of activity was restricted. In this case, data masking was active because I had hit my pattern for numbers. Okay? But this is fine, this is logging. But how do we actually build a security incident? How do we detect a security incident or a data leakage incident? That's very important. Let me introduce you to one additional control. So generative AI is on top of mind for every organization. I'm pretty sure for your CTO as well, that's a very big concern. How do you control data that's being sent to Gen AI? You could control file uploads, that's fine. We have typical controls for that. I just showed you clipboard. But what if user types a prompt that contains sensitive data? So in this case, I'm going to type a social security number, and this particular control is called typing guard. This redacts data that is sensitive when it's being typed into applications. This uses the same data pattern technology that we just saw. Okay? But there's a superpower. Notice a little dot here. So for very sensitive applications or very sensitive activities, you can turn on advanced forensics from the Prism Access browser. When something like that is, when you see some similar activity on that, Prism Access browser can take an advanced forensics such as an event recording or a screenshot of that particular activity. So an unmanaged user working on a sensitive application, we could record that specific sensitive activity for forensic reasons, for data leakage, investigation reasons, right? So think your core insurance, core banking portfolio. If somebody is interacting and trying to perform malicious activity, you can take a forensics here. And from this, you can actually tie that down to an incident. This is not an isolated incident. What was the user doing before this or prior to this? We have a detailed incident timeline for that session. You have a quick view what happened during that entire session. Any device. I access these many apps. I performed all of these activity, including trying to access developer tools, including pasting certain activity. The data masking was active, so I tried to access sensitive applications. I can move across this entire timeline and view what really happened. So the browser is now your intelligent edge. It feeds advanced forensics back to your telemetry platform so that you can build out visibility across that. So we have the edge covered. We are able to see all of this data, and we need to correlate that particular set of information. And for that, we'll have my colleague coming in shortly, but I'll leave you with a couple of takeaways before I hand it over to him. With the Prism Access browser, you are transforming the way that you do business. With the Prism Access browser, you are unlocking agility. You can deliver secure access to your applications on any device, bring on board partners very quickly until the IT is set up. You're enabling your organization to set up and access generative AI securely. With the Prism Access browser, you do not need to roll out managed devices to everybody. Especially in an attrition-heavy industry, you're able to control the flow of information on your private applications, on your confidential data in a much different way, a much better way, with new activities that you've not even thought of, right? And with the forensics and auditing capabilities within the Prism Access browser, you have pertinent data that you can perform data security investigations centrally from the manager or feeding into a SIM platform or a SOC platform. So with that, I'll hand over to my colleague to cover specifically around how do we stitch all this data together, not just from the edge, but also from other security solutions and data protection solutions within the enterprise. So over to you, Akshay.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I can't hear it. Yeah. I'm Abhishek. I'm Senior Domain Consultant for Palo Alto Network, majorly focused on the SOC transformation. So today, what we'll be doing is, we'll be covering next topic. So I want to open with the question. So how many of you have visited SOC previously or been part of a SOC? So can you guys raise a hand? Okay, only very few of them. So SOC is a center where we do a round-the-clock monitoring with respect to different sort of threat. So before joining Palo Alto Network, I was working with the GSI. So my role was to drive all the effort with respect to how you can build a security operations centers. And typically, with the GSI, they have a different facilities. And one of the agenda what GSI has, whenever there is any delegation that comes and visit them, they'll be invited to a SOC. And we used to feel a lot of proud when these people will come, sit with us, and we'll be able to present them what kind of offering we have. So one fine day, one of the delegation came from Europe, and typically we did our presentation. And one of the questions that they have asked us is, what keeps you up at a night when you're looking at SOC? And we were prepared with this kind of all questions. And then, as usual, right, we talk about a lot of threat landscape, how it works, why we are doing it, what is the importance of that, all those things. But after that, that person has asked us very unique question. That is all okay. Suppose if you are defending against the enemy, which does not sleep, he does not play by any sort of a rule, continuously evolving. So in that scenario, how you are going to protect? And this is where it started getting tricky for us as well, because all we had is all technology integrated together. But at somewhere down the line, we were aware all this technology are running basis of certain number of a correlation with a certain number of a possibilities. And this got me a thinking, and with that, what we are going to do is, we are going to start with the outline of the autonomous SOC. The whole idea of this session is to discuss this specific topic. We are going to discuss this topic basis of the theory of infinity. So anyone knows what is the theory of infinity here? Because there are going to be some gifts after this session. So I'm expecting you guys will be able to answer certain question. So anyone understand what is the theory of infinity? So theory of infinity is, there are things which will have no bounds, no boundaries, or no limitation. And I have one case study for that as we'll move forward, and we'll understand that from a war aspect, what theory of infinity means with respect to a Taliban as well as America war. Then we'll see from war aspect, if you are applying same thought process to a SOC, whether we are currently in a place to protect against those kind of scenarios or not. And the last thing what we'll see as a part of today's session is how Cortex-XSIAM, which is our SOC modernization platform, can help in such scenarios. So if you remember, in 2001, when US started a campaign after 9/11, the campaign started with the manhunt with Osama bin Laden. And again, it was a superpower, so they thought, we'll just whitewash everything. We'll be able to get into Afghanistan, we'll find Laden, and within a matter of time, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we should be able to get hold of him. So this was the thought process where this entire drill was started by US government. But the over period of time, what they realized, and they had to withdraw from such kind of a campaign because Taliban understood that they adopted different set of things. US was using a lot of conventional warfare, conventional thought process, but Taliban started using guerrilla warfare. So attacker or the enemy has adapted themselves. It became never ending a battle, and because of that they had to withdraw because they were not able to see a clear win. And this is sort of situation currently we are having with respect to our security operations center. We are basically running a battle where we have a finite set of technologies, finite set of capabilities against the infinite set of adversaries. So if I have to relate this kind of a scenario with America or Taliban as a battle, so we have a conventional warfare. So they had all the ammunition, aircraft, all different things at their arsenal. But the problem was still they were not able to predict things. Same thing or same challenges we are seeing with respect to a SOC as well. We have known tools, we are running by the rule, but what we typically see is attacker is evolving. They are identifying different tools, different scenarios. They are launching a different sort of dynamic attacks. That is making it very difficult. Second thing is we rely on a lot of conventional tactics or a technique, but somewhere we forget there is an army of people who are trying to have a major objective and they are campaigning against every single organization. So in that scenario, our playbook-driven static approach doesn't help. It becomes extremely difficult for us to win such kind of a scenario. Third important thing, we think if any sort of attack will happen, that is going to be a repeated pattern. But that is not going to be a case, right? Because every scenario will have their own kind of a enumeration. We call it as a polymorphism as a scenario. For example, when Log4 shell or any sort of ransomware attack has happened, we initially kind of the sample what we have seen over the period of time, we have seen zillions of possibility of same sample. So it become impossible for us to detect. Same thing has happened with the American-Taliban war. Now challenge, what we started seeing is AI has changed everything, because this is some slide Tariq also presented previously as a part of the presentation, but I am going beyond it. What AI has done is with GenAI, initially suppose you have to launch a phishing campaign. You need to do a lot of hard work in terms of making sure that message is very well crafted, very well defined. It should have right things in place. It should have a similar level of resemblance with the actual website. Now you just need to copy paste the link of the website and give some description, and tool itself will be able to launch the attack for yourself. Second important thing what we have seen is now there are a lot of faster kind of a reconnaissance in terms of you don't need to dependent for a days. Within a fraction of minute, within hours, attackers are able to scan across the network. They'll be able to identify what are the gaps, vulnerabilities you have as an organization and how that can be exploited. Next thing is, the result of it is traditional SOC. Again, since there are a lot of dynamic things are happening, the SOCs are not able to keep this kind of promises. And because of that, a lot of technology provider, if you see, they are coming with this story of the autonomous SOC or the way you can, operate your SOC. And now attack lifecycle is single. So this is something we are going to see in the subsequent slide. There are really interesting stat we have, and I'm going to ask a couple of questions to you all. So the ransomware, suppose back in 2021 and 22, suppose you have to build a ransomware. Can someone guess how much time it used to take to build one ransomware? So this will give you a lot of gifts. So basis of that, there are some questions around it. So it was 12 hours. So it was taking 12 hours. But if you have to do it today, that time has drastically reduced. Now if you have to see that time, it has reduced almost by 60–70%. Now it is only taking 3 hours to build a ransomware and launch attack. What is projected in 2026, that time will then get reduced further. So imagine it was initially double-digit number of hours, 12 hours. From there, it became 3 hours. Now what is projected is it will become only 15 minutes. So this much time it will take for someone to build ransomware, launch attack, and successfully disrupt the organization. Suppose someone has to compromise and exfiltrate. Again, this is one of the scenario. Our Unit 42 team has done this analysis. So what they used to see is, for this activity, it is very resource extensive and time consuming activity because you have defense in depth with respect to a lot of technology provider, right? So it used to take 9 days, but that also got reduced. Now it came down to 1 day. What is projected in future, by 2026, it will come down to 20 minutes. So that is what the projection is. Last thing with respect to exploitation of vulnerability, so 9 weeks of the time was there. And by 2020, so you had an ample time. So whenever there is a CVE, by the time it will hit you and you will get impacted, you had 9 weeks of time. But now if you see, that has reduced to 1 week. And what is projected, it will go down below 60 minutes. So the moment any zero-day will come, there are automation tools will be available that will make sure you will be impacted and there will be a direct impact on you. So if I go to any SOC and see their situation, right, because to handle this kind of a challenges, every organization started doing a lot of investment in this area. So what they have done is they started acquiring different technologies, tool in their ecosystem. But one of the fundamental problem is by the time you will have some tool in place and that tool will start operationalizing, giving you result, you are always behind. The pace at which modern IT is evolving and the way we are doing a development, these technologies are not able to cope up with that pace. So that is what we have seen as a part of the scenario. Again, when such kind of attack happens, what we see? So one of the fundamental things we see, we always decide and discuss if any kind of a scenario happens, we always wanted to go back to a SOC and ask, do we have data to identify and assess this kind of a breach? And every time what we have seen, the answer is A. We will figure out some way or other by basis of going through a data or information. There was a breach, it happened on so and so date, but after manually stitching that data. The question what we are trying to ask is, can this be done in the real time? Because if you have a data, if you have information, if you can make a use of that information, can this be done in the real time? So that was a question we are trying to address as a part of this. So if you can see now, there are every segment. For example, when we started with the network segment itself got evolved. So it became a zero trust and SASE. Infrastructure became cloud. Now we are not talking about the data center. Everyone was talking about the cloud. They are adopting cloud journey. Endpoint, initially it was AV, EPP, EDR. Now it became extended detection and response, which is extending prevention capability, not just limited to endpoint, to other threat attack surface as well. But the SOC is as is. It is majorly driven by the tool, which is SIEM, which was never evolved over the period of time. It was as is. What Palo Alto has done in this area, right? It realized one of the fundamental challenge we have for this is because currently SIEM is all about human intervention. So someone has to look at that screen and make sure that incident alert will be investigated manually. And once that will be investigated, there will be a level of automation on the top of it. Fundamental question was, can this be changed? Because if we'll bring automation at the very early life cycle of any security operation, you are reducing a dependency from an individual. And what it will make sure is, if you want to achieve same level of resiliency, same level of effectiveness or efficiency from any analyst, right, that is something is possible. So if I have to rationalize this or I have to give one example, one of the classical example I have with respect to cockpit. So initially when this specific example is from Cold War. The earlier, all the aircraft used to have different kind of throttle, navigation, different system, right? But the challenge with that, pilot has to manage everything. And it was very risky in terms of how someone is going to operate that. Second thing is, complex scenario has required a lot of skill with respect to that individual pilot to make sure he'll be able to do a successful takeoff or a successful landing. But now you see, the cockpit itself has changed, right? There are a lot of gauges, gear, which gives point-in-time information for you. Can this be managed independently? Because I was traveling to RSA. Out of 17 hours, I was talking to a lot of pilots. Most of the time, they were relaxed. But if suppose someone has to manage this individually, that itself is impossible. And this is where the autopilot comes into the picture, right? What it brings? So it basically handles complete flight routine. It makes sure that the focus will shift from your actual flying to strategy and execution piece. It will make sure the performance will remain same so that there should not be a deviation and you are handling all the requirement of this public safety as well. With same thought process in mind, what we have done, we come up with a platform called as a Cortex-XSIAM. Cortex-XSIAM is our next generation autonomous security operation platform. What this platform does, it brings different technology stack as a part of the one common ecosystem and bring the layer of the agentic AI on the top of it, which basically makes sure all the mundane tasks, repetitive tasks, or investigation activity that can be automated. Now, most important thing and the fundamental thing what I want to cover, this is where you'll understand what thought process Palo Alto has while building this technology stack. So when we started building this platform, one of the questions we ask ourselves, suppose we have to build something which is autonomous, what is the most important thing for us, right? To again give some example, anyone know which car is it, which company is it? This is a Waymo. Is it operational in US? It's a driverless car, truly driverless car. So in last year when I visited RSA, you cannot directly drive this car or you cannot be a party to it because it has required the US number. But right now they had made it operational for all the individual. Kind of the precision and accuracy at which this car drives, right? It is phenomenal. And one of the reasons for it is sensor and information that they collect. When you are sitting next to this car, you yourself will be able to understand how at real time this car maps entire state. If something is happening at the even right corner or anywhere, it will be able to understand there is a threat, there is a possibility, it will slowly come down to your footpath. It will make sure the public safety are always taken into account. Why is it able to do it? Because it is able to collect all the relevant information which is required for you to access. What we are doing with our product is we are making sure it is not limited to a specific set of information. All relevant information, be it your development infrastructure, be it your remote access server, any threat attack landscape, all this information collected along with the threat intelligence, which will make sure you will have right information in place. The fundamental and core of it, because attack surface is not just limited to only one device, one person. It can be anything. The moment you will change one of the configuration with any one of your application product, that could be vulnerable as well, and that could be a potentially cause attack. Second thing is, from a technology perspective, to support this, we have the complete set of ecosystem in place. No matter where your data is, that data can be collected. We have a different component, be it cloud, be it on-prem, you name it. Basis of that, you will be able to collect that information. So fundamental of it, how you are going to collect all information or all this knowledge repository into one common platform and make use of it. Once you will collect data, what is important is what level of precision you will have. So recently we launched Operation Sindoor. One of the key thing is whatever attack we did, right, every single attack was a precision base. One of the objective we had in mind, there will not be a civilian casualties. It should only target the necessary location where we have intel, where we are anticipated there are threats in place. That is the thought process we had, and very responsibly we launched that attack. With same thought process, what we do with the data is we make sure whenever we collect the data, we maintain the quality of that data as well. So for example, this is something we called 5 V's with respect to any machine learning term. So volume of data means you have to collect different information at certain volume. Then velocity, that data has to be real time in nature. It should not be a past dated data. You cannot do with any real time detection with respect to that. Then third most important thing is variety of information. It is not something like you are only collecting information from endpoint, but you are missing something on browser, you are missing something on the network or cloud. Third thing is veracity. Veracity is nothing but making sure accurateness of that information. Whatever information you are collecting, it has to be accurate in nature. There should not be any parsing related issue. There should not be any incorrect information fed to a system. And value, at the end of the day, when you are collecting any sort of information, it is important for you to know whether that data has certain value or outcome that you want to derive or not. What happens with this all information is this information will get into our machine learning, which is a cloud native. On the top of it, there are 10,000 plus detectors which will work. Objective of these detectors is it will give you a precision based scenarios, either if any kind of attack, because if you want autonomous system, it should be able to identify threat and prevent it as well, right, at the real time. So that is the first principle that we are following with this platform. Second principle is if you are doing something, we should be in position to explain, right? For example, the car is going to a footpath or it is taking bread, it should be in position to tell customer that why I'm doing it. So that is something is happening with respect to causality based detection. We are able to have a self-explainability in terms of information where we say this is the reason why it has happened. Third important aspect is it should have a full context of a threat. What threat, why, that should be available. So when results get populated, this is how the dashboard looks. So typically you will have information in place, you will have what all playbooks got already executed, what are the recommendations, those are given as a part of the playbook, and then how many alerts, from which sources those alerts are generated. So all these information which are necessity to take action or remediate something, right, that will be available as a part of the product. So this is how console look like. We'll get into a demo, but this is very high level view of it. Last most important aspect of it, what level of automation you can apply. So we have more than 1,000 plus integration within our platform, which makes sure we have set of technology integration or capability, which will make sure there will be some kind of a communication between every technology what you got. With this technology, on the top of it, there is a layer of the agentic AI. What agentic AI does is all the mundane tasks which are done by the analyst, it learns, it sends, and product, you can work with the product, you can interact with the system the way you interact with the ChatGPT, tell them okay how it needs to be done, and basis of that you are able to perform the task. I'll take a pause here before a demo. Any questions so far?
Hello.
Yeah.
My question is how you will be dealing with false positives with respect to alerts received in SOC.
So what we have is called as smart scoring, which is a sharp base. What it does it will identify different alerts, it will identify a risk, and the quantification will happen. Basis of that, either it will get prioritized or deprioritized. If something which we are seeing repetitive, basis of the other customer, basis of your own feedback, which has a low risk, then that will be deprioritized. And some level of information is given to you saying that, okay, we have a low confidence here for this specific alert. If you want to investigate, there are automation you can have. You can give a command and say, okay, this case has a low confidence. Can you go and check these 5 things? Basis of that, it will be natural language process, and then you can investigate and close that as well. This feedback again go as a part of the ecosystem, and which makes sure that next time this kind of alert or incident should not come. So it's a learning curve. As you will start interacting with the product is smart enough or a design in a such a way that it should be able to take care of itself in the longer cycle. So that this is how with that thought process the overall product is designed.
So can we consider it like AI-based learning combined with a SOAR capability?
Correct. So both the combination we have. So what I'll do, I'll get into a demo. So I think demo will give you some sort of understanding. So this is how the landing page look like for a Cortex exam. So left hand side, if you see, right, there are different integration. So we have an open integration framework. What this framework does it will make sure no matter what technology you have at your arsenal, that technology integration will be done with our product platform. Once technology integration is done, first level of the alerts will get generated within this platform. This alert nothing but the malicious indicator that we are seeing from a different kind of the sensor. The sensor can be your own internal sensor, or it can, or Palo Alto sensor, or it can be a third-party sensor as well. Once this data is got into a sensor, then it will be converted into incident. So if you can see, there is a larger number earlier available on the screen. So for example, there are 2,000 alerts, but it got converted into only 97 alert, 100 incident. So this is where the false positive reduction, grouping, those all things will come into the picture. So at any point in time, if there is any issue with respect to any one of collection, that will be also notified with respect to a collection error to it. Idea is to give you a sense of understanding how this system is working, what information we are collecting, at the same time how many alerts are got prevented as well. This is something usually other products or OEM was not able to show. You have built-in system in place. If you are collecting billions of events, out of which how many alerts are prevented as well. Second most important thing is how you can bring a explainability as well. So now you have collected information, but I need to explain, right? For example, this playbook or this automation or this AI/ML algorithm got executed. What is the explainability of it? So that is something available in the form of the live feed. So what live feed makes sure is it will give ample information to analysts to understand that. Last piece, which is autonomous nature, is where you will have two kind of a workflow. Workflow which is completely automated, workflow which you can automate by doing some double clicking. For example, there is already decision taken care by machine, but initially you have to give a guidance. For example, we identify some vulnerability, but after assessing or after interacting CMDB, what we understood that server is nothing but the production server and has your application running on it. So in that scenario, what is important for us to have a automation which is semi-automated or a manual in nature. Again, this is the dashboard where what you will be able to see is the grouping of different kind of the information. At any point in time, you can pivot back, you can go to a specific incident. There are threat intel platform also comes along with this. So within product, if there is any IOCs, iOS, or any kind of the artifact which are available, which you can see in artifact section. So that is something is also available and enriched with respect to live threat intelligence, which is provided by us. So now what we have done as a part of this is we come up with the agentic AI capability as a part of the platform. So the whole idea is, so initially platform had capability where it used to tell you what needs to be done. But now what we have done is we come up with the agentic AI capabilities. So there are AI agents available within our product. So it is nothing like, you are working on the chat GPT. So you are giving them command, GPT is working on behalf of you. For example, let's say you identify some vulnerability and you wanted to scan your entire estate and identify how many machines are impacted and tell them, okay, now once you discover this many machines are impacted, how you can swiftly act on it, how you can remediate it, it can be done directly by the agent. So this is something we have recently launched. In this specific example, there is a CVE. This CVE needs to be remediated, but system has, since it was integrated with the CMDB, it identified that system is active. But the another challenge we have with the system, it is a production setup, hence it has to go via the ITSM or ServiceNow tool so that it should not be a direct blocking of the IP or something of that sort. So this is something we have currently. This makes our SOC as autonomous, not only starting from a detection, but till the remediation, we have a complete ecosystem in place which will make sure all the prevention aspect of it, detection aspect of it, or remediation aspect of it is taken care. Again, there are a lot of user input or human intelligence goes into this platform, which makes this platform very foolproof and make sure, okay, you have the right things in place. So with that, I'll take a pause. So Ashish, you want to come down? Ask. There are. Yeah. So thanks everyone.